Of course it ends with Randy Savage having his spotlight taken away by Hulk Hogan. Hulk never fucking learns that Randy Savage was always better. I'm John Rutland with a retro review of WCW World War III 1995. 3 rings, 60 men, all human centipede together, and yes, there was an undercard for this. But seriously, it's like taking the Battle Bowl concept of Starrcade 91, 2 rings and 40 men, and let's just add 60 men, make it a whole fucking clusterfuck, put a screen here, and screen below, because that's what fans want to pay for a pay-per-view for. They want to be able to watch small screens on a TV that may have not been all that big at the time. Remember, this was still in the mid-90s when some people had the box TV, so they're having to like almost use a magnifying glass to take a look at this stuff. But there was a nice undercard. Honestly, if it hadn't been for the World War III pay-per-view, or, the match itself, the main event, being such a goddamn mess, this was a pretty damn good pay-per-view until then. And I always loved Battle Royals, and once it got down to like the final 20, it wasn't that bad, but just, it was such a fucking clusterfuck. And they took a whole bunch of people like legends, people from the territory days, guys that would, call them back, basically guys that weren't under contract to Vince or ECW. And we're like, hey, just bring us in. And I'll actually mention all the participants. It's actually shocking how many people were in this match that hadn't been seen on TV for quite a while. Commentators for the event, Bobby Heenan and Tony Schiavone, then, Bischoff and Dusty, and Larry Zbyszko, and noted pile of shit Chris Cruz. Chris Cruz is one of the worst wrestling commentators, one of the worst human beings to be involved in wrestling. If you've ever heard his commentary, well, let's just say this. He's better than Mark Madden, but that's not saying much because I seriously could concuss myself, be half drooling on myself, and be better than Mark Madden. I think anybody can be better than Mark Madden except Josh Matthews. So, yeah, Hogan, Savage, and Sting talk of Mean Gene. Hogan strips off the black and burns it. The clothes, I mean. He didn't actually burn any black people, even though I'm sure he wanted to because Hogan hates the brothers, brother. And it's took forever. We get clips of DDP and the Diamond Doll. Diamond Doll says, hey, for the TV championship match, whoever wins the championship also wins my services. Okay. Kimberly also shouldn't have been allowed to speak on television because she wasn't very charismatic. So Johnny B. Bad versus DDP with the Diamond Doll. And she's always holding up the flashcards. The Tan, he even gets her to hold up one of those at some point because she's fed up with Diamond Dallas Page. And they always work well together. Actually, this is one of the better feuds that DDP had in his career. And I would argue probably the best feud that Johnny B. Bad ever had. At least in WCW. I'm not saying he didn't have any other good ones, but this probably was the best one. Because they always had at least good matches. And in the case of this one was one of the better ones. And a leg drop over the ropes. 1, 2, 3. Mean Gene interviews both of them afterwards, and Mark Mero, who plays Johnny B. Bad, was like, I don't want you to make a decision now. Let me know you need to do your own thing if you want to. Do whatever you want to do. Mark Mero, by the way, really tremendous motivational speaker. I remember being kind of harsh on his character, like his wrestling character, that is. But he was never going to be a world champion, but I always felt like he definitely should have gotten more in WWE. But no, they had to go with Sable. Yeah, they had to go with that goddamn idiot. But you know what? It was a good storyline. It continued until Mark Mero left the company sometime after, was it Super Brawl or Uncensored, I think, that he left. And then went to WWE for WrestleMania 12. So I think Super Brawl was the last match. And then Duggan has his 2x4 hanging around a noose. Yay! No. And tape fist match, by the way. The idea was, they taped their fists up. It wasn't like the Axl Rotten thing where it's a Taipei death match, thank fuck. It's Big Bubba versus Jim Duggan. And the hardest fist in wrestling is a line from Tony Schiavone. And if you didn't think I perverted that line a whole lot during the show, you don't know me very well. But here's VK Wall Street. He has a chain, and Duggan, hitting him with his wood, impacting his wood all over his body. But then Big Bubba gets the chain. This match took forever, by the way. It should have been a lot quicker. It was only 10 minutes, but it felt like 20. Because neither of these guys should have had a long match. Loaded punch. Duggan gets knocked out, and Big Bubba wins. And then Flair yells about facing Sting tonight. Then we get Bull Nakano and Akira Hokuto versus Mayumi and Cutie Sazaki. I'm sorry if I didn't write those names down correctly. It was cool to see Bull Nakano and Akira Hokuto on the WCW pay-per-view. And today joins commentary to give background. This was a treat. I love Bull Nakano. The fact that she would always do these incredible moves, especially off the top, for being, at the time, a bigger woman than, some of the ones that were being featured, she really was goddamn good. I mean, she's the type of athlete you could feature as opposed to Bertha Faye, Ronda Singh. That wasn't a very good idea, but this was a treat at first, and it was taking place at the Norfolk Scope. They weren't sure how to react. They were like, okay, all these women are doing this, but not really much. They really started to get the people when they did a double submission spot. Mayumi and Suzuki did. And then a missed moonsault, and then stomps for days, so many stomps. A lot of close near falls. Everybody dives. And you get a doomsday device for 2, and then finally the Bull Nakano drop, the leg drop off the top. 1, 2, 3. And it was only about 10 minutes, or I think it was like 9.5, but still, this probably was the most standout match on the card because I don't think anybody really expected it, except like the diehards that did tape trading with, All Japan, New Japan, that knew that, hey, these women are really goddamn good. And All Japan really had a great women's roster for a while. Maybe they still do. I actually think All Japan, I think now it's just Stardom and various others that do all women's wrestling, but credit to them. And Bull Nakano and Akira Hokuto, their reputations speak for themselves. So we then get a Mean Gene interviewing Jimmy Hart, Lex Luger. Lex cannot talk for one bit. Macho, I don't know how to explain this to you. No, you don't, Lex. Despite having a 4.0 grade point average, he couldn't talk for shit. Benoit versus Kensuke Sazaki, who had just recently beaten Sting, I believe, in Japan for the U.S. Championship. Good as expected. Benoit with the suicide dive. And Benoit could have crippled himself there with the headbutt. Hina doesn't know how right he was. He was only a bit off. And then a brainbuster for 3, so Sazaki retains his championship. Mean Gene interviews Sullivan, the Giant, and Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart really was great here. I mean, he was great when they turned him heel from Halloween Havoc, like, till a little bit later. For just the promos they were giving him. It was, again, as close to Memphis Jimmy Hart as we were going to get on a national cable broadcast. I mean, not quite as maniacal because he was older and he couldn't quite do every single thing that he could do in Memphis, and he was one of the standouts in Memphis. But it was great to hear Jimmy Hart just cut loose and be a heel here. Randy Savage versus Lex Luger. Randy's revenge. That didn't last very long because he was favoring the arm, and even though he attacked early, Luger would take over, get the rack outside, and then target the arm. Savage would pass out, Luger would win. And then Sting shows up and talks Luger out of it, kind of like the same that Luger talked Sting out of having not the figure 4, but the Scorpion Deathlock on Flair on a recent Nitro. And I'm at least going to review the rest of Nitro through the end of 95, so I basically have December to do that. And I'll think about, like, revisiting, maybe I'll revisit for select shows, but I don't know if I'm going to continue to review it. Because I got only so much time on my hands, but we'll see. I will for sure do a 25-year reflection, retro review on Hall and Nash's returns to WCW, though. Now we get Sting versus Ric Flair. Sting's revenge. I mean, it was good like you'd expect from these guys. These guys always worked well together. Suddenly Sherry, no, not suddenly Susan, and Colonel Rob Parker show up, and they're sitting and they're kissing, and it was weird, and Sherry... I'm really glad Sherry got inducted in the Hall of Fame before she passed away. Scorpion Deathlock for the win, and Sting lets go. So yeah, there we go for that. That's the end. That's, the end of the show. That's it. No, we still have the 3-ring, 60-man all-human centipede together battle royal for the vacant World Heavyweight Championship. I'm going to go through the participants, so bear with me here. Scott and Steve Armstrong, Arn Anderson, Johnny B. Bad, Marcus Alexander Bagwell, Chris Benoit, Big Train Bart, Black Bart. Yes, Black Bart was still wrestling by this point. Bunkhouse Buck, Cobra, Disco Inferno, Jim Duggan, Bobby Eaton, Ric Flair, The Giant, Eddie Guerrero, Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, One Man Gang. Yes, One Man Gang was still wrestling at this point. Which always surprises me because I always thought that he was done soon, by like 92, 93. Never got over the Akeem thing. Mr. J.L., Canyon, Brian Knobs, Kurosawa, Joey Maggs, Ming, Hugh Morris, Max Muscle, who was DDP's bodyguard, by the way, Scott Norton, Paul Orndorff. I think Orndorff was done sometime after this because he had those neck problems and the atrophied arm, and he had to, retire and be a coach at the power plant. DDP, Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker, Brian Pillman, Sergeant Craig Pitbull Pittman, Lord Steven Regal, Scotty Riggs, Hawk, Big Bubba, Jerry Saggs, Ricky Santana, yes, was brought in. Journeyman Ricky Santana. That wasn't his name, that just was something. They didn't have Renegade in this, I believe. That's what was surprising. They didn't have Renegade in this. Oh, wait, that's because Jimmy Hart's like, you're not Renegade, you're just plain old Rick. Can't imagine why Rick Wilson, who played the Renegade, was so depressed when they basically demoralized him with a terrible gimmick and then buried the fucker. So, Kensuke Sazaki, then Shark, Fidel Sierra, the Cuban Assassin, Dick Slater, Mark Starr, Stevie Ray, Sting, Dave Sullivan, Kevin Sullivan, Super Assassin, that was Barbarian, Super Assassin 2, The Warlord, Booker T, Squire Dave Taylor, Bobby Walker, who I'm not really familiar with. I've heard the name, but I can't recall anything I saw him in. BK Wall Street, Pez Whatley, yes, Pez Whatley, the man that helped shave Jimmy Valiant's hair about 9 years prior. Maybe it's 9, and maybe it's 7 years prior. Still, Pez Whatley just suddenly randomly showing up. Still looking in good shape, but it's just odd. And then let's see. Mike Winner. He was not a winner here. Alex Wright. James Earl Wright, who I can't recall. He sounds like he should be a British judge. The Zodiac. And the Super Giant Ninja, the Yeti. They made him a giant ninja instead of a mummy when he should have been a furry snow creature. Those are all the participants. Once again, Chris Cruz is a terrible wrestling commentator and a terrible person. So, this was a mess. A massive, huge manatees, though. And that's enough about the one-man gang. I kid. One-man gang was a really good big man. Yeti was out immediately. I think he was like one of the first people out. This was a disaster. A fucking disaster. This place looks like Bosnia. Quote from Larry Zbyszko. Study up on your history there, folks. You'll know what that means. And basically, we get down to like two. Basically, the idea is it's 20 men in each ring, and again, all human centipede together. But once they get down to 10 men in one ring, then they go to the other ring. So then you just get where it's a big old clusterfuck, and you get injuries, and you get a whole bunch of stuff. Down to 2 rings with about 20 minutes left, we have 30 men. Luger hits and runs outside, basically just playing it smart, which is weird for a guy that can't cut a promo. But he's targeting Savage and just staying outside. That way you can't get eliminated if you're just outside. 10 men with 10 minutes left. Guerrero lasted until the final 9. Hogan tossing out Orndorff just before that. Flair and Arn get out. Then Hogan dumps his Giant, Luger, and Sting. And then Hogan gets drug underneath the bottom rope. Now remember that. Savage quickly wins by dumping out one-man gang. Nice that we're back in like 1988. And then Hogan's complaining that he never got pulled out from, or never got tossed over the ropes. Which is true. He didn't. Because he didn't want to do the job because Hogan was a fucking idiot and a fucking coward and a fucking goddamn idiot when it came to, wanting to put people over when his character was well established. It wouldn't have hurt for him to put over Randy Savage at least once, without basically effectively burying him afterwards. That's what he did here. And Hogan says, did I go under the bottom or not? And the crowd boos because the crowd was sick of Hogan. They wanted Randy Savage to get that. And Randy Savage is what it is. And I guess they address it by looking at the footage on the following Nitro. I'm trying to remember that. But anyway, yeah, it's a clusterfuck. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm Charm Ritlin. I'll see you soon.